Right, we're back again. We're here at British Library. This is one of the few venues in central London where it's quiet enough, though you'll hear the occasional siren go by and the occasional motorcycle.
Yeah, when they're late for their lunch.
People are around, sitting around, listening to us while we're here. All right, this is what I want to go to now is back when you started coming in 2019,
something like that.
You came before that, but you started coming regularly in 2019, because I remember before I left, I met you. And when you started coming, what was it that, I assume you started coming just to talk to people about anything, but you started moving over into the Islamic world. Why? What was it that moved you into the Islamic world?
Okay, that's not quite accurate, actually. I assumed I would be polemicizing. Well, so I wanted to speak to Hebrew Israelites initially.
Explain who you're talking about.
Okay, so there are certain sects or cults, or like a black identitarian Nation of Islam with the Bible. Think of it that way. They started in the 60s, some of them at the turn of the century, but because they used the Bible, I thought that's good, because we're both already versed, and I won't say well versed because I'm including other people, but versed in the scripture. And I'd read the Quran, and like, I have to be honest, it made me feel nauseous.
Muslims, but these are Afro-Caribbean, Afro-American.
Yes, that was my intent. But what I mainly wanted to do was help with the commission. So I knew that it was predominantly Islamic, and I was going to say luckily, but it's not. God's plan for me has been that everything I've ever studied or in my personal life has come to benefit me within my discussions. So I'd read the Quran. It made me feel a little bit sick when I realised that, because before I had a liberalised view that Allah must be God and it's just all wrong. Like, because there is only one God, I reasoned to myself. So I didn't think of Satan with his small g. Like, I was thinking there is only one God, so maybe they've just got it all utterly wrong. And but it's a genuine attempt to, And when I read it and I realised that it not only was like nonsensical in as much as, not compared to itself, although it is, when compared to the Bible. Allah is saying, I am Yahweh, but he never mentions the name Yahweh, and he's forgotten, and he contradicts himself, etc. And when I saw how Jesus was betrayed, and I felt desperately sad that there are people truly believing that they love Jesus, even though they're Muslim, and yet they don't know Jesus at all. And it's this other dude who was making clay birds and talking in the cradle. And then I saw the stories are lifted from other sources, and I thought, what, Jibril couldn't just nip down, like he had to go off and find these texts, these apocryphal, like heretical stuff. So I always liked arguing, even when I wasn't as strong. I would argue from the vantage point of Islam if I was speaking to a crit, just for the sake of debate / argument. So yeah, I already had a background, a grounding in Islam theologically, or polemicizing it in my personal life. And that I feel like at the time when someone was trying to convince me of the truth of it and potentially have me convert to Islam, I was sort of chatting to God, like, why do I have to keep having these circular like, it doesn't seem fruitful. And yet it all came to bear that when I walked into Speaker's Corner, I thought, oh my gosh, this is easy, because I'd had one-on-one intense, like a persuasion. So, and I'd already defended myself utterly against that, and then grounded myself again in Christ. So I felt ready to take on. The very first time I walked in with a view to beginning to fulfill the promise I'd made to God, was I saw Asif, who's an Indian Christian, surrounded by heckling, baying young men who were Muslim, and they were, like using racial body language and like mocking him because he's an Indian, talking to him as if he's a Hindu, like bringing up cows, and I don't know.
Just a fellow with
white hair. Yes, he's
older gentleman.
Yes, he's lovely. He's very loud, also, very loud. So without really thinking too much, I just went into the circle and stood with him, and then just deflected some of the attention away from him. And someone said, wow, in the Bible, and I just got my Bible out, and then that was the beginning of that. And it just happened to be a Muslim who engaged me the very first time that I was there for a debate. So Yeah, and then the Hebrew Israelites was patchy in their attendance. I feel that sometimes maybe they're being held in a cycle. I don't know why they don't turn up, but they were very aggressive. Just a couple of them. I had a man, accuse me of all sorts of stuff just because of the colour of my skin, and he was being held physically back. So the first aggression that I directly experienced was from a Hebrew Israelite. But if they don't have the right God, I'll talk to whoever it is.
The Hebrew Israelites, just so people take the position that when you look at the Bible, you read it through black eyes. So everything happens in Africa. So all of the traditional people that we see in the Bible, all the prophets, they were all African.
Oh, yep.
So they were all Afro.
So was King James, apparently, according to some of the...
Yeah, so they switch everything back down to that continent, so that to understand true
with a heavy focus on the Old Testament and the enemies as footstools, and just violent and persecuted because they believe they are the true Jews.
They are the true Jews.
And that the actual Jews are imposters and...
Right.
And
so they
like
received the covenant from
and
God.
There are some because there are different camps with vastly differing theologies. I mean, One West, I think, was one of the first modern iterations. American, I won't say if I think that means they're more crazy or not, but yeah, some of them think that Joseph is actually Jesus' dad. Some of them don't. Some of them think that you could be white and a real Israelite. Because I remember David Wood, one of them said to him, well, you can beatbox. And because Sam Shamoon could do I don't know, he knew a lot about Bruce Lee. They said, yeah, Bruce Lee, he's an Israelite. Because I was like, you're making it up. So there are some very aggressive and violently ideological members, and there are others that just are sort of sheeple in the background with the Flintstones clothes on.
They don't have large followings. They don't really have much they can support.
Oh no, they have copy-pasted. They have like sections of the Bible, but you can't read before and you can't read after.
Yeah, right.
It's just sound bites. Yeah.
Then that's what support. And I think sometimes Christians can do the same thing. We're guilty
certainly.
of that.
Yeah.
It's just
even if you have to stop halfway through the verse to support your own stuff.
Say, if you can read all of the context, then we'll have a conversation. Now, getting back to Islam, so the Muslims attracted you at some point because they engaged with you. You found that they were more engaging.
Do you mean prior to going to Speaker's Corner?
When you started with Asif, they were the
I see. Well, I wouldn't say attracted me. They repulsed me with their treatment of Asif, and I just wanted to defend him because I wasn't used to it. I didn't realise that I won't say enjoys, but he is supremely indifferent to the baying, heckling mobs around him. He feeds off of the fact that, well, they're close to him and he is foghorning Jesus at them,
That's actually very Indian.
Yeah.
It's very cultural. And I grew up in it, so I love it myself. Not love it, but I have no problem with it. I enjoy it. Being in third-class railway carriages, I would always have to take on everybody because I was the only American. They hated Americans because we supported Pakistan.
A vast array of reasons, probably.
I had no reason to support America, but my accent gave me away. But I'd have to take them on, and the better I took them on, the more tea they would provide me with. So it was profitable
value as well,
at the same time. Okay, so you kind of moved into you kind of fell into the Islamic world.
Well, no, the Islamic world migrated to London. Like I'd grown up. When I was,
but you were not engaging with Muslims.
No, I was. Yeah, I had friends
all
through my life.
Okay.
From my school. I mean, when I was at school, back in the 18th century, it was like very few people of vastly different, like obviously different faiths, and there was an orchestrated move towards tolerance, inclusion and stuff like that, but somewhere along the way it became disingenuous, and nowadays it's a religion of peace when it's it's this double speak thing.
Well, it never was prior to 2001.
It never was, but I'm saying it was like dishonestly portrayed as such, whereas before it may have been compassionately, the people may have been ignorant of it.
In the 1990s, I never heard anybody say it's a religion of peace. After 9/11,
no, sorry, I don't mean that slogan.
The narrative changed overnight.
Yeah, I don't mean that slogan. I mean, there were, like you said, there were less polemics because less people had bothered to read the Quran and see that it says fight them, whether you want to fight them, slay them, cut them up. So, like, if you've read that, And then you hear people who you suspect have read that saying, oh, well, it's all the same God and we're all just getting along, and you think, not so much.
No.
So yeah, when I was at school, there were far less Muslims, but they were, I was friends with them, and increasingly the areas of London have become more so populated with Muslims. So I had it wasn't nothing of it was new to me apart from the approach. I'd seen aggression and Sharia patrols and things of that nature, but never consistent, or just the odd story about it, and then it would kind of fizzle out. But at Speaker's Corner, I realised quite quickly that it was a regular attitude of, not all of the Muslims certainly, but superiority and entitlement to polemics. Because you mentioned before attacks on Christianity, and why are they attacking Christianity in your time there? Because you were so few anyway, and the darkness doesn't like the light. And the truth, I've always think it that there was a political party in Britain called the Monster Raving Loony Party, and they were off key. But well known and sort of jokish, but nobody went crazy and you can't say that, because it's so clearly laughable. And I could do that with Islam, but it's taking people to hell. So the truth hurts, and the truth angers people. And Jesus said, I was hated first and you will be, and that includes Christianity. It's people don't respond well to being told that they are condemned by their own actions.
Understood. All right, so...
Oh yeah, I'm teaching my grandmother at the moment to suck eggs as well. So I'm explaining it to you as if you don't get it.
By default, Islam kind of took over and has. So the biggest, probably the biggest debates, the biggest discussion groups are always Christianity and Islam.
Certainly.
There are atheists there. Stephen, that's a good friend of yours, and you do engage with him at some point. They're the socialist, that guy that's the captain's always the socialist. He's always there. What has a funny name?
Dusty. No, Heiko. You mean Heiko? Yeah.
Heiko. And
he's quite charming.
Actually, he is, and he's been there as long as I've been there.
Yes,
so,
I've got a black and white photo of him as a very young man on a ladder as well. He likes the ladder.
He's very good on it, and he's very good at engaging the crowd.
Yes.
And he gives and takes, and the crowds are there generally. They stay for hours.
Definitely.
Because he holds their attention. He is what I would say is one of the old school.
Yes.
That's what Speaker's Corner used to be. That's what you remember. That's what you thought you were coming to. When you first went to Speaker's Corner, you found it was much more of a free-for-all, in your face, a lot more agitation, a lot more aggression.
Yeah, recourse to violence that I didn't see prior to that.
Yeah. So Islam has taken over. Obviously, this is now... You almost have to be prepared for it, and you've learned an awful lot of new ideas. You've learned a lot more about Islam in the last 3 or 4 years that you've been there. What I want to do next is look at some ideas that you think are the good ones, the best one that you can think of, the best ones you come up with.
To polemicize.
In Islam. Working on it. But we'll bring this one down to a close because we're about 13 minutes into it. Just to kind of walk you through, as you have engaged in the last 3 or 4 years, what was it that pulled you into Islam? In this case, it wasn't by choice, it was by necessity. All right, this is Jay and
Brilliant.
Kay here at the British Library. Well, for now.